What's up everybody, Demon back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla X Kong news roundup. That's right, in this series we are continuing our chronological coverage of the development of Godzilla X Kong The New Empire by talking about events that happened in the back half of August 2022. Let's just jump right into this one. Starting out with some artwork from Art of Aaron Dwyer. Now this is a Godzilla collection, not necessarily a Godzilla X Kong collection or anything like that, but he's got some fun work in here. I really like his work. I think he's such a great artist. Here's a really fun one of Godzilla and Jet Jaguar. I like Jet Jaguar writing on Godzilla's back. I also like how he puts all of his fandom in this picture. You can see all the people in DC shirts running around and a Captain America hat. That's fun. But that's a fun one. That's a really silly one. He also has his Godzilla King of the Monsters one, which is really cool. It's a very interesting take. It's obviously got Ghidorah wrapping around Godzilla in a very Heisei way. That's really cool. I like that. And then you've got the Mothra Rodan fight in the background. But look at that Mothra design. It's a recolor of Mothra. She's all white and blue. That's actually really neat. I don't know what the fandom would do if that happened in the movie, but I think it's sick. I think it's such a cool take on Mothra. I really like that. This one's a classic that I've shown off before, but it's Godzilla vs. Kong poster. It's a classic King Kong vs. Godzilla styled poster with them fighting at the aircraft carrier. That's sick. I love that one. And then this one actually has a lot of hidden potential in it. This is his Godzilla vs. Kong piece. Godzilla and Kong fighting with the Warbat and the Skullcrawler. But think about it like this. What if we see a sequence like this in the new one where the two monsters are fighting in the Hollow Earth and they attract the attention of other Hollow Earth creatures? Or a scene where Godzilla and Kong are ambushed by creatures like Skullcrawlers and Warbats, maybe at the command of Emperor Kong. That'd be sick, man. I don't know. That picture has a lot of potential for the new movie. That's really cool. Legendary Comics featured Giganex's Kaiju's figure art. This is just part of their fan art appreciation stuff they do, and this is great figure art. He's got the SHMA Kong versus the SHMA King Ghidorah 2019. That'd be a very unfair fight for Kong. I'm sorry, buddy. He's not going to take that one easily. Ghidorah gets to enjoy some dinner. That's a really cool one. I like the framing here. I like the way he uses depth in here. That's really cool. This Kong one is awesome. I love the neon coloring, first of all. I think he's done a great job with the framing of this one, but I don't know what weapons he gave Kong. They are sick as hell, though. I would love to see Kong have new weapons in the new movie. These are really, really cool. I don't know what these are, but they are sick. This Mothra one's incredible. Just beautiful. It reminds me of some of the concept art for Godzilla King of the Monsters. It looks great. It's just a great piece. I would love to see more Mothra in the Monsterverse. I really miss her. And then finally, a classic Godzilla Atomic Breath photo. You'll love to see it. Again, great use of colors. This one looks awesome. And it's just a nice classic Godzilla visual. You want to see something amazing? Look at this next piece. This is Ninsai Kaiju's Ren Serizawa cosplay. It's absolutely amazing. This was so convincing that I actually thought it might have been Shun Ogori when I first saw the pictures. It's so good. What a really awesome and inventive cosplay. I love the helmet. I love those neon tubes coming off the back of it. I don't know how he did that, but this is great. I like that he has the Playmates Mechagodzilla with him. That's a lot of fun. And then I like that he gets electrocuted when he's up there. That's great. Great stuff. What a great one. I'm a big fan of that cosplay. Next up, it's time to cover some figure news. Everybody's favorite Hiya Toys is back at it again, revealing their Mothra 2019. This one is beautiful. With a 14.2-inch wingspan and 11 points of articulation, this figure, which ranges anywhere from $29 if you get it in its domestic release, not in the US, that's overseas, to all the way up to $50 in the United States, so that's where it gets a little pricey. This is their Mothra. I don't know if the $50 price tag is worth it for Hiya. I'm still not convinced on it. They look like NECA figures, but just with slightly better quality. I'd buy it if it was like 40 bucks even, but 50 bucks, that just seems like way pricey for these. But this is great. It's a perfect blend between the concept art for Mothra, which is the more traditional Mothra look, and it's obviously what the Mothra in the movie is based on. It's got the classic wing patterning with the red and the orange, and it looks very traditional Mothra. It's what for some reason every single figure company has decided to adapt, is the concept art for Mothra rather than the Mothra from the movie. But you can see they've got a lot of the hair textures going on through the wings there, which is great. It's something that NECA did as well. But unlike what many of the others have done, they also incorporate the blue, which is what Mothra primarily has in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Her bioluminescence turns her wings blue. This one is a perfect blend with the blue slowly creeping up towards the top of the wings. Very inventive solution to the fact that she has multicolored wings in the movie that change color throughout the film. Great thing that they've done there. This looks a lot like the NECA version, but upgraded. I think it looks fantastic. I'd love to get my hands on it. They've got a good base for her as well, which is good good stuff, so now she can stay in aerial position. I hope her wings can stay out like that, like they are in these pictures, where they can kind of position her wings however they want, because one problem Aneka's has is that you either have to have the wings all the way up or all the way out. Otherwise, she just won't hold her pose. So I hope they figured out a way to make those joints more flexible so that she can actually flap and hold a flapped pose. That'd be great. Yeah, it looks really good. I want that one. One that I don't necessarily want is Hiya Toys Godzilla 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong Stylistic Exclusive. This one is an 8-inch figure that runs you, again, $50, and I'm not sold on it. It's the Stylistic series, so there's no articulation. It's not an action figure. It's not a posable action figure. It's just a display figure, and it looks okay. There is a lot that I really like about it. Like, I think they've done a phenomenal job in the dorsal spines. I think his spines look great. I think they've got a lot of good texture. I think overall he's got mostly good texture. I just don't think the paint job complements it as well as it could, because whenever I look at this, it looks unrendered, like, you know how Playmates never has those fully rendered figures. This looks like a highly detailed Godzilla figure that's not fully rendered yet. The arms are incredible. The legs are incredible. The tail's incredible. The chest is great. The face looks weird. Looks like they didn't finish working on the face, and that's because the paint job. They went for this very blue, glowing, full of atomic energy paint job, which is cool. It looks good. It looks neat. It's a cool gimmick. The translucent blues are very neat. I like it. I like the way that it spills all over the body. I like the turquoise. It's a really cool paint job. It just doesn't complement the sculpt as well as it could. Maybe I'd feel differently if I saw this thing in person, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of these photos and I'm not sold on it. It doesn't seem like it would be a $50 figure to me. This one seems like it'd be a $20 figure. Reminds me a little of the Sega Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. It also reminds me a little bit of the Bandai Godzilla HG figures, in that I think the sculpt could be richer. I think the paint could complement the sculpt better. There's a common misconception relating to the Monsterverse, and that's that the Monsterverse cannot use the title King Kong. Now, personally, I don't understand why they don't call him King Kong. They refer to Kong as king multiple times throughout the franchise. However, they're reluctant to give him the title King Kong, and I think it has something to do with the fact that they don't want to retread the past. I think it also has something to do with the fact that Godzilla is the king of the monsters. It has nothing to do with the legality of it, because the Monsterverse has used the title King Kong in an official capacity before. The final track, or the second to last track in Kong's Skull Island, is officially titled King Kong. Adam Wingard has also referred to Kong as King Kong multiple times. He refers to Kong as King Kong all the time in the BTS and says that by the end of Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong has earned the title of King Kong. So we'll see if they use it in Godzilla X Kong The New Empire or not. They like to retread the story arc of Kong becoming king in every single movie, so I think that's what they're doing in this one as well. That's all to say that the Monsterverse can use the title of King Kong. It's not owned by Universal, which is what many people think. KDM clarifies that literally the movie title, King Kong, is what is owned by Universal. Nobody else can make a movie titled King Kong. That's why you see a lot of things called Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, Kong of Skull Island and Kong, or whatever. Because the official title King Kong cannot be used by anybody but Universal in the movie title, but not the name. They can still call him King Kong, as you see here. The official foreign poster for Kong Skull Island has the title King Kong plastered right up there at the top. It just can't be the title of the movie. Drew Edward Johnson, the artist behind Godzilla Aftershock and Godzilla Dominion, did an interview with KDM, and we get a little snippet of that here. In this little snippet of the interview, Drew Edward Johnson talks about how Godzilla Dominion is the most action he's ever had to draw. That's a lot of fun. He did a great job with Dominion. There's a lot of cool action in it. I don't know why this got brought up again in August 2022, but I'll bring it up any chance I get. It was recirculated that AMC got a lifeline from Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh, I remember why it's brought up. I'll talk about that in a second. AMC theaters got a lifeline from Godzilla vs. Kong. The theaters were on the brink of collapse in the pandemic. They were saved by basically a Reddit meme that brought their stocks back up, but it wasn't until Godzilla vs. Kong that the theaters actually started to do well. Godzilla vs. Kong was the turning point where stocks started to roar after that movie's release. I've got 2 articles about that linked down below if you want to get into the business side of things. I'll keep it brief here because I've already talked in depth about the business side of Godzilla vs. Kong and the way it affected movie theaters in the past. I just wanted to bring it up again because I'd like to point out Godzilla vs. Kong is the film that saved theaters and nobody can take that away from it. The reason that this was relevant again is because AMC Theaters celebrated its best ever Investor Connect meeting with an August 26th, 2022 re-release of Godzilla vs. Kong, where the CEO stated he prefers apes over lizards. That's right, he's on Team Kong. That was a lot of fun. That was a great birthday gift for me. That's my birthday, and I celebrated my birthday 2022 by going to see Godzilla vs. Kong. It was a fantastic time, and it was just like, couldn't be better for me. My favorite film to watch in theaters gets released on my birthday again. That was great. But that's why they brought Godzilla vs. Kong back. For those wondering, why did they re-release Godzilla vs. Kong Kong of all films, it's because Godzilla vs. Kong was the film that revived and gave that little boost of energy to the AMC stock market. There's a BTS picture of Isa Gonzalez being silly in the heave from Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm not sure if this was released before, but KDM posted it around this time. Not much to say about it other than that it's good stuff and she likes to make that face a lot. There's lots of BTS photos of her making that little ducky face. There's a Godzilla vs. Kong press release photo showing Adam Wingard directing Brian Tyree Henry. Now this photo seems pretty ordinary. We know the scene. It's in Godzilla vs. Kong when Bernie finally gets to meet with Walter Simmons. It's right before Mechagodzilla goes off the chain. Now this was from the cut version of that sequence. As you can see, Hayworth is in the background. Hayworth being the character that was originally going to turn on Walter Simmons and kill him as Serizawa took over. Mark Fisher found the actual Hayworth costume. This is the actor who played Hayworth in his full costume. Here's an actual photo of him fully suited up. Hayworth is a character that there's a lot of denial built around, people denying his existence and the idea that this was a big character in Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I've talked a lot about the character of Hayworth in the past and what he was supposed to do. He's an assassin who works for Apex. So I just wanted to show off that we now have an official picture of what his costume was, and then we'll move on. As of August 2022, Weta had not signed back on for Godzilla vs. Kong's VFX. I think in modern day they actually did sign back on. So we'll keep an eye on that, who's doing the VFX for Godzilla vs. Kong. As of August 2022, it was not Weta. They were not returning, but I think they will. I think they are going to return. For Godzilla vs. Kong, if I'm not mistaken, Weta handled all of the Hollow-Earth stuff, while other companies like MPC, I believe, handled all of the on-Earth stuff. Junkie XL returns for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Now, many people might be surprised, but I'm very excited that he's back. It makes me really happy because I firmly believe that consistency in composers creates consistency in a cinematic universe. I think it's important to have returning composers for a cinematic universe. And with Adam Wingard and his cinematographer returning for this new movie, I think it's only right that Junkie XL would get to return as well. It also means he can build upon the things that really worked about his Godzilla vs. Kong soundtrack, primarily the Kong stuff and the synthy Hollow-Earth stuff. And maybe it means he can refine, tweak, and maybe improve his stuff that was lacking a little more, that being his Godzilla stuff. His battle themes are great, but Godzilla's theme is lacking big time. I do not think, however, that we will hear Godzilla's classic Toho theme as a result of Wingard returning, and he wasn't very keen on returning that theme anyways, and Junkie XL, who does not like to reuse other people's music. So goodbye Godzilla's classic theme song. Adam Wingard posted a silly video teasing that Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire is in production. This was the first official acknowledgement he made that he was back as director. It's just him running around set and then Godzilla and Kong roar and he says, "Oh, gotta get to set," and then he runs back in. It's just some fun stuff. I really like Adam Wingard. He engages with the fan base in a fantastic way, in a way that many other directors do not personally. I really appreciate it. I'm sad to see that he left social medias, but I hope he's happier for it. I'm very happy that he's back because he's a great, charismatic guy. Kaylee Hoddle rejoins Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire as Jia. Now, this is something that I knew about was going to happen for a long time, but I'm happy that she's finally been announced as being back because she was such a great part of Godzilla vs. Kong. She truly is the heart and soul of that movie, and it's fantastic to see her return as Jia. It makes me very happy. I'm very happy because that character means so much to Kong's story, and it just would not make sense or feel right at all to continue Kong's story without her. She truthfully has become the second part of that dynamic duo. It will feel very strange if she ever goes away from a Kong story in the future. Godzilla X Kong had major casting announcements. These were released by Collider. Legendary revealed the official cast and crew for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. The cast has some returning faces from Godzilla vs. Kong, but not all. Some people like Mark Russell and Madison Russell will not be returning, despite the fact that you'd think they would, and I've heard it's because Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler maybe did not necessarily get along great with the crew of Godzilla vs. Kong. A very unsubstantiated rumor, but I've seen some people float that online as a potential theory. I personally think it's just because they signed a 2-movie contract. They didn't sign to come back, and their stories, seems like Adam Wingard really didn't know what to do with them anyways. He fumbled them in Godzilla vs. Kong, and I think he was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with these characters. They're not mine. I didn't make them. Goodbye." Seems like Wingard wants to develop Wingard ideas. Wingard does not want to follow up other people's ideas. He wants to make ideas of his own. So goodbye all the stuff that's not his. Hello, all the stuff that was his. That's why we are seeing the return of Kaylee Hoddle, Rebecca Hall, and Brian Tyree Henry. They have joined the cast officially. That's great as well because Eileen Andrews being back with Jia makes complete sense. It would feel weird if Andrews wasn't with Jia, and it also would be weird because Andrews is so connected to Kong for 10 years worth of MonsterVerse continuity that it would feel strange if she just disappeared all of a sudden. Brian Tyree Henry being involved? Weird. I don't know what his character's going to be up to. Maybe Bernie officially joins Monarch? I feel like he wouldn't, though. I feel like he'd kind of be the guy who wouldn't want to join Monarch. It'd kind of ruin his podcast. He couldn't talk about about all the stuff he knows anymore. So I'm confused on why he's back, especially because he had nothing to do with Kong, unless he's following Godzilla on the surface again, but I've heard that his character spends basically his whole time with Rebecca Hall, so I'm interested to see the duo. As far as why Nathan Lind isn't back, I've made a full video on that. You can go check that out. Basically, it boils down to Alexander Skarsgård was busy. He couldn't return, so hello Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens takes his place. We now have the rest of the cast fleshed out, and he is supported by Fala Shen of Shang-Chi, Alex Ferns of The Batman, Rachel House from Thor Ragnarok, and they're all going to be in Godzilla X Kong. As far as the crew goes, Terry Russo from Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla vs. the Griffin returns as the writer for this film, alongside Jeremy Slater of Moon Knight and Simon Barrett of You're Next. That's a Wingard picture. So Wingard's keeping things in-house again. He's keeping his friends around because they clearly work well with him. Emily Searson comes back as costume designer. That's great. She put a lot of thought and themes into the color choices in Godzilla vs. Kong, and I think she knocked it out of the park in that movie. I love her work. I'm excited that she's back. She doesn't get enough respect. Sabrina Wilson joins as makeup artist. Gloria Pasca-Casney joins as hairstylist. If you want to know who that is, because I said her name so wrong, if she heard it, she wouldn't even know what I said. Just go check out the links in the description below. The VFX supervisor for this movie is Alexandro Ongaro. I wonder if he'll play Kong in the movie. The VFX supervisor for Godzilla vs. Kong did a little bit of mocap for Kong when he's on the boat, so maybe this guy will do some mocap for Kong in this movie. Warner Bros. Will be back as the distributor for this movie, not Sony. Going back to the thing we talked about in the last video, not Sony. Although Legendary and Warner Bros. Are kind of breaking up, the MonsterVerse is still their baby. So Warner Bros. Will be distributing this movie in the domestic and international markets. As far as China goes, that will be handled by Legendary East, and Toho will be handling the release in Japan. KDM teases Iceland and auroras in Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. He also teases glaciers. There are rumors that in Godzilla X Kong The New Empire there will be some sort of ice monster, and I think that's what he's teasing here. I would love to see them return to Iceland and there's auroras. I'd love if that was a location in the Hollow Earth. That would be fantastic. Then you could get the auroras and it would make sense with the whole Skull Island theme of it. Or it could just legit be Iceland. But they better bring in auroras because they just look so beautiful. I want them back. Best visuals in the MonsterVerse. Always have them. Imagine a fight under them. It'd be beautiful. Yeah, I think this is going to be Godzilla's opponent in the movie. Some icy monster. I think that's who Godzilla's going to go up against. That seems to be what the rumblings on the internet seem to suggest. So I think that's why we're seeing this stuff. That's great. I'd love to see Godzilla fight an ice monster. Kong is fighting an opponent of his own. Another ape-like species. He's fighting an orangutan this time. Whereas Godzilla could have a foil of his own, that being another lizardy type monster that comes from the ice. It's a classic monster setup as well. Gamera's awakened from the ice. I think Beast from 20,000 Fathoms might have been awakened from the ice. It's classic stuff. Classic monster stuff right there. Wingard's a fan of 50s monster movies, and that's a very 50s monster movie thing to do, to have a monster frozen in ice. Also, Ghidorah was frozen in ice in King of the Monsters, so it makes sense in the MonsterVerse already. Filming occurred at Queensland University of Technology in Australia. Don't know what they filmed there. Maybe they filmed some of this Monarch stuff I'm going to talk about here in a second, but I don't know. Could be like Denham University in Godzilla vs. Kong or something. Although that was stock footage, so I don't know. I don't know what it is going to be. Probably a Monarch facility. Speaking of Monarch facilities, there are set photos revealing a Monarch school. Now this is a Monarch primary school, K through 12. Here's some BTS photos revealing it, and obviously we can figure out what this is going to be, right? Probably the children of Monarch workers being educated in a Monarch base, very similar to how sometimes military families living on military complexes will raise kids in military schools. That's very similar to what's going on here, I would assume. And who's our number one star pupil? It's going to be Jia. She's going to be going to school here for sure, obviously. K through 12, I don't know how old Gia's going to be in this movie. I'm going to guess probably closer to Kaylee's modern age, which I think, I think it's like 16. I think she's maybe 15 or 16 now. That's what I'd guess Jia will be, somewhere around the 13 to 16 age. But that's my guess. Here's some stuff that might be changed. I believe that this has been changed, but KDM got the insider scoop that Dan Stevens would be playing Stephen Randa, Bill Randa's grandson in Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. The Randa legacy was supposed to continue. Bill Randa, of course, was a Monarch operative. I believe he joins in the 40s after he comes into some contact with some monster, maybe Godzilla, on the USS Loudon. That was talked about in Kong Skull Island. And then he meets his tragic fate in 1973 as he gets eaten up by a skull crawler. Maybe he had a family. Apparently he must have, because he was originally supposed to have a grandson in Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. I think that's a phenomenal idea. It sets this character apart from Alexander Skarsgård, makes him his own, doesn't make this just a brand new Nathan Lind copy. It makes this guy a brand new character who really has some depth and history and connection to the rest of the MonsterVerse, makes the MonsterVerse feel more fleshed out, makes it feel more interconnected, which this franchise desperately needs, more interconnected threads. I thought that was such a genius idea. Bill Randa is one of my favorite protagonists in the MonsterVerse as to date, so that made me really, really excited to hear. Steven Randa. Cool. I love it. I love it. Steve. Maybe the name's a reference to the fact that his name's Dan Stevens. Probably was just picked because they thought it was a cool name, but it could have been a reference to Steve Martin from Godzilla King of the Monsters, famous Steve in the Godzilla franchise. I don't know. I think from what I've heard, they've changed it, which makes me think, what the hell? Must not have been integral to the plot if they've removed all plot threads connecting him to that character. Very similar to the way that, yes, technically Ren Serizawa is the son of Ichiro Serizawa, but it's never stated in the movie. They never draw that hard line. You have to know it if you know the context of that character. You can kind of connect the dots on your own, and you can also look into the expanded material, which will explicitly state it. And I have a feeling that they'll do something similar here with this character. If the rumor truly is true that they've cut the threads from Dan Stevens' character to Bill Randa's character, or maybe these rumors were just wrong. Maybe KDM got a scoop that was wrong, but that doesn't happen often, which is why I think KDM got accurate information and then they just changed their mind. Not unheard of for the productions of Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla X Kong. Could have happened. But that's where we stand at the moment. There's going to be some icy scenes in this movie. I'm going to guess it's an ice monster. There's going to be a Monarch school, maybe in the Hollow Earth. That'd be interesting. What if Monarch built a facility in the Hollow Earth and they have a school there that Jia attends? That way she can stay close to Kong. I think that's a really cool idea. I don't know how they get all the resources to build that down there and have it fully functioning, but maybe they did. Or it could just be close to a Hollow Earth entrance point. That's probably more likely. And then Dan Stevens potentially being the son of Bill Randa. That'd be cool. What do you think of all this down below? Which one of the casting announcements gets you the most excited? For me, probably it's Jia, obviously. I'm really excited she's back because, again, I just think it'd be awkward for Kong if she wasn't. She's a great character with him. But I'm also very excited to see Bernie Hayes return, just because I'm very curious to see how do you move that character forward with the universe? What is he up to these days? Is he like internationally known as being the guy who exposed Apex, or is he gonna be kind of still on the shady underground trying to follow behind Godzilla still? I really hope he's working with Monarch. I think that'd be very fun to see that character so out of his element in Monarch, but he's not out of his element as much as he would just be kind of a kaiju groupie the way that we kind of saw Newton was in Pacific Rim. I think that'll be a lot of fun if they do that. I'm very curious to see his dynamic with Andrews. I think that'll be very strange to see those two interact. They're like opposite ends of the spectrum. That'll be it for this one, guys. I want to give a huge thank you to all my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below. It goes a really long way towards supporting the channel and making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys. And by supporting the Patreon, you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. That's it. That's it. The video's done. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.